So that was our whole purpose, I think, to just be a cow having things.
I mean, it's basically to put. Go ahead. Is someone going to say something?
This is Susanna, and the thing that I would say in regard to that is when you say the level of fragmentation just around the event itself. Is that what you were talking about, the conception itself?
Yes, the actual act where the Jude says it was an intensified form of fornication that is beyond that which occurs on the human level.
I would describe it as, like you said, we're all very unique, but I would describe it as the extreme of ecstasy and terror at the same time, that it's just off the wall, and as a human, our bodies are not designed for this. I mean, it is not natural. And the fragmentation that results from the act itself, it's just almost total devastation.
Yeah. Some people have described it as like being annihilated, just reduced to dust, or, the fragmentation is very intense. Would you all agree to that? I mean, is that what you experienced?
Yeah. Right.
Now, of course, when we're talking about, and I know we're not spending a lot of detail because we've already done broadcasts on this before, so we're really focusing on you ladies having the opportunity to make this kind of a closed case, that this is, you're not speaking out of parts, you're not speaking out of subalters, you're speaking out of who you are as persons, who you are as Christians, having done a significant measure of integration work, depending on where you are in your journey, and that in who you are as a person, you are giving a testimony. Krista, unfortunately, she had to leave. She got up early, but I know that Krista, I did ask Krista, who is rather young on the journey, she did say that I asked her on the phone tonight, she described that which represents the conception event as a sexual act. So she is not with us. She had to leave. But I want to bring Jennifer Diane, because you do represent a new generation. You do represent that which was not from the old bloodline stock, if you will, that these ladies here are speaking from, Jennifer Diane. But you are a new generation, a generation that represents a representation of a whole human race that's not non-bloodline, which would be a direct analogy or parallel to what we see in Genesis 6. So, Jennifer Diane, would you say that that which represents the conception of the multiple hybrid offspring that have been born, conceived, that it was like what we see in Genesis 6?
Yes. It was exactly the same as it reads in Genesis 6. And I know for me it was a different case because I'm not from a cult bloodline, sort of in the same sense that the other ladies are talking about. It was, and then my entire purpose, my entire being was created, redesigned to conceive one specific Nephilim, and then the subsequent ones were just to shield. Basically, anything else was just a shield from one specific Nephilim, which was, it was exactly as in Genesis 6, and it became, and from that point on, it became when they opened up their choice or whatever, they opened up what they were choosing to include anyone who whether they're bloodline or non-bloodline. And so that's when they started, I guess, moving outside from what they had, what Barbara said, their pool, which they were choosing maybe to stick to start including the non-bloodline.
Now, when it comes to the defenses that are associated with trauma and all the layering and the defenses, getting to that part of your identity that was actually involved in the conception event, how challenging was it for you in your journey of, just resolving all the DID issues, to get to that place where you are mother who conceived, and then at some point had to marry and become the wife. And it's true of every one of you women. There's both the mother aspect where you conceive, and then at a subsequent time you become the wife. So how challenging has that been for you to come in to own this as a part of your history, and just from the standpoint of resolving the trauma and the DID work?
Yeah, it has definitely been the most challenging. Everything, I never ever wanted to believe it, and it would be the one thing that I would say, okay, well, I'll acknowledge it, but I'll stay kind of away at arm's length, which basically means dissociate still. And I was invested in remaining separated from who I was as the one who conceived, the one who married, the one who gave birth, because it was in that moment in time at the conception, at the marriage, at the birth and at the marriage, that it was as if that connection, that body connection, it was connected with Satan, passing through my soul and into my spirit, and it was a massive then disintegration where it was like my entire spirit, soul, and body became ash. And that was, and we have revisited it before because it's in a way even after we'd work, I'd dissociate my counseling in a way because I didn't want to own it. But it's because it was so traumatic.
Yeah. And I think for listeners, because I've been to seminars, and you have theologians that think they have everything pigeonholed, and they say, well, you mentioned your human spirit, that's sanctified. When you're born again, that can't be touched. Wrong. You're wrong. 2 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 1, therefore, beloved, having these promises, what's that? Come out from amongst them, be separate, says the Lord, and do not touch what is unclean. Well, when you're kidnapped as little children and being prepped and prepared for this event, then it's too late. But Paul says in 2 Corinthians 7, therefore, having these promises, beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from all defilement of flesh, that's physical, and spirit, perfecting holiness in the fear of the Lord. So right there, the spirit can be defiled. Now, that doesn't mean the essence of who you are and your union with Jesus Christ can be broken. He who is joined to the Lord is one spirit, 1 Corinthians 6:17. But we do know that the spirit is subject to sanctification just like the soul and just like the body. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 23, may the God of peace himself sanctify you entirely, that your whole spirit, soul, and body be preserved whole, holokleros, sound, without blame, with reference to the coming of Jesus Christ. So we see spirit, soul, and body is included there. So the spirit can be sanctified. So what the enemy has done, he's able to shear off and capture as much as he can, and attach to the human spirit. And we've seen this in the counseling process, and until the human spirit is cleansed, 2 Corinthians 7:1, at the deepest level, the whole DID structure and all that which is in the realm of the soul, where all the programming is, that ultimately cannot be broken. That must be broken at the spiritual level. And when the fallen angels and Satan is involved at this level, he is a spiritual being. He knows how we're made, and he knows how to come in and steal. Jesus said, I came that you might have life and have it abundantly. But the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. He's going to steal whatever he can in order to carry out his end-time agenda. And his end-time agenda, I believe, first and foremost, is the hybrid breeding program to create a whole prototype of new humanity, if you will, so that the rest of mankind, as they buy into this alien agenda, they will be offered some kind of an injection, mark of the beast, where it will be a biological nanobot using the GRINS technology, that is genetics, robotics, artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, synthetic biology, you bring that all together, and then with the very DNA that is now represented in these spirit-to-flesh fallen angel offspring Nephilim. These are the prototypes. They can now take that DNA and offer that to the rest of the human race, so they can now move from Homo sapien to Homo noeticus and have eternal life, if you will. You know, the original lie in the garden, you shall become gods, you shall not die. When they offer that to mankind in this great deception, I believe that this is going to be the clincher for those who have not received the love of the truth, as we see in 2 Thessalonians 2, verses, 9 and following, 9 to 11, then they will believe the lie. The lie is, you will not die, you shall be gods. And so the prototypes, these hybridization of the human race, this breeding program creates the prototypes from which they can extract the DNA, and now they can offer that to the rest of mankind so they can evolve into Homo noeticus. Is anyone want to come in and just talk about anything that this would represent in terms of your history and knowledge? You're free to do so. Or anything that's on your mind as we bring this to a close.
I was just thinking, because I just went over the paper written by Doug Hamp again today over the corrupting of the image, you know, that man was made in the image of God. And it just, his paper is wonderful and puts into perspective what this is about. But I was thinking, Doug, he made the comment, because you're talking about the enhancement and the lie that man will buy into. He said transhumanism, this was Doug Hamp's definition, is the seeking of man to make himself a god through directing his own evolution, forsaking the image of God, our Creator.
Excellent.
And so, you know what, to understand what has happened to us, you have to understand what it meant that we were created in the image of God, and what that really means, because all of this is to corrupt that image. And so I was thinking, as Christians, we are conformed to the image of God through the way of the cross. And so transhumanism and all that we're talking about, what the Nazis were buying into, the super race, it was all becoming like God apart from the work of the cross.
Yes.
You know? And so, and what is available to us goes far beyond. The glory of God transcends so far beyond what Satan has to offer. And,
yes, amen.
you know, it's just, well, I don't even know what to say, but I was just thinking of that today before tonight, and what God has in mind for us. And just the fact that Satan can do nothing but copy. And just as the incarnation of Christ was through Spirit to Mary, the seed, he has to copy that. His seed is a copy of that. It is.
Excellent.
And,
yeah.
you know, so he can only copy. And we already know that the seed, Mary, the seed of the woman, conquers the seed and crushes the head of Satan. And so that's what this is all about.
Yes. It's the conflict between two seeds, Genesis 3:15. You mentioned Doug Hamp. In fact, I've just visited with him before our interview tonight and mentioned that we're going to have this, so I'm sure he'll be looking forward to listening to this. One of the things that, the issues, is that what Doug Hamp is posited, that through recombinant DNA, that is, the way DNA is sequenced in a laboratory, you can bring in, like a chimera. You can create new species. Well, I believe that's for the human race in general. If you take that which represents a first-generation hybrid, spirit, fallen angel to flesh, you take that DNA and make that available to mankind, then mankind can go from who they are as Homo sapien to Homo noeticus and become in a representative way, like a